Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Rapid Fire with your host, Damien, and myself, Ben. First, want
Episode
to,
number two. Episode number two.
yes, episode number two. First, want to start off by wishing everyone safe travels and everything that anyone affected by the hurricanes in North Carolina and Florida. So, hope you're all doing okay. I know in PA and Maryland area local to us, we've been pretty grateful for some really nice weather. So, start of fall, hopefully everyone is enjoying it. And also, thank you for the great feedback so far on our video series. We got some good feedback up last time. Keep the charts up longer. We like to see those. Any feedback on additional things or topics is always appreciated. But with that said, we'll kick off the video. And thank you again for listening. But we'll get into it with some talk about the Federal Reserve. So we throw around the Fed a lot on in terms of their impact on the economy, but we don't always do a great job of explaining who they are. So Damien, you want to kind of give everyone a brief explanation on who the Fed is and kind of what they do?
Sure. Thanks, Ben. And again, just I know it's reiterating it, but again, thoughts and prayers to everyone down in Florida and Carolina with the last couple weeks of storms. And boy, I think we're all ready for some calm weather for especially Florida and the Panhandle area. So thinking of everybody, but on a much more fun topic, the Federal Reserve. So, we could probably put you to sleep with explaining the Federal Reserve to you, but we always like using analogies, and we've always sort of compared the Federal Reserve to the person driving the car. Their job to oversimplify things is two things: to try to maintain a healthy labor market, right? Try to make sure there's not too many people unemployed to oversimplify it. And second, their second mandate is to try to make sure inflation doesn't get out of control. Their goal is to keep inflation, around 2%. Well, how do they do that? They have a ton of different tools they can use, but let's go with the car analogy. Is they have the ability to either try to speed the car up if they need to, if they think the economy is going too slowly, or try to slow the economy down by hitting the brakes. Well, how do they do that? They oversimplify it by controlling interest rates, right? If you think about it, back a couple years ago, they started raising rates. When they raise rates, it's like hitting the brakes on a car, right? It's like a car is going too fast. If an economy is going too fast, you might be worried about inflation. So what you do is try to tap on the brakes to slow that car down. So by raising rates, think of them trying to hit the brakes. And we used this analogy a lot back then. When you hit the brakes on a car that's going fast, you just have to be careful. You don't want to hit those brakes too fast, or else things can get out of control. Same thing on the flip side. They just started lowering rates about a week or so ago. What are they trying to do? They're trying to hit the gas pedal, right? They're trying to say, okay, it looks like this car is about the right speed we want it to go, and now we want to hit the gas again. So every time they lower rates, it's like them trying to feed more money back into the economy by pressing that gas pedal down. And think about it, if you lower rates, Ben and I have talked about it a lot recently. Mortgage rates have fallen from about 8% to 6%. That puts more money in the economy, pressing the gas pedal of this economy a little bit further. So there's a very quick, sort of non-boring description. There's a lot more that they do. But in general, that's their job, is to try to keep things as smooth as possible. Ben, you want to get in? I know that was a very sort of short synopsis of how they work, but a little more detail on sort of what's going on with the Federal Reserve today.
Yeah, so Damien and I talked about this before, and we figured we'd continue the car analogy. I personally I like cars. I have a Camaro, and I tend to race it every once in a while.
I say
Not
Ben
on
won't
the
admit it, but
roads.
he's a race car driver.
Yeah, not on the roads. I'm not doing anything illegal. So I go to tracks and have some fun. So regardless, to continue that whole analogy, the hardest thing I think, in my perspective, driving is the turns. I mean, when you're on a straightaway, all you do is you hit the gas and you're going. You don't really have to worry about anything unless there's a car that might crash into you and you have to kind of look over your shoulder. But turns are hard. You have to figure out when to brake, how hard to brake, and then also then when to get on the gas and then how hard to get on the gas. So think about it from the Fed, kind of like Damien mentioned, pressing on the brakes. So far, it seems like the Fed successfully did the first part of the turn. They, press on the brakes. They got the car to slow down, and they got it to slow down pretty well. Inflation's kind of this, if we're thinking about speed, we think about it from inflation perspective. So inflation has cooled. It's not ripping at 9% year over year anymore. So the Fed was successful so far on hitting those brakes, but we're coming out of that turn. We don't want to lose too much time on the track, but we want to get on the gas, but we want to do it in a thoughtful way. So if you ever get on the gas too fast, you can easily spin the car out, which is kind of the tiptoe that the Fed is trying to do right now. They want to lower rates, so they want to stimulate the economy. And they don't want it to, the car to spin out. They don't want the economy to go into a recession. They're trying to tiptoe around all these things. Hopefully, that provides a good explanation. If anyone wants to get into racing, I can always talk about that for a long time.
And I
Maybe
think
someday Damien will get his Tesla out there. We'll see.
no, probably not. Not at this point. But I think the turn analogy is great, and I think right that's where we are. The economy's at a turning point, right? You're coming out of this, are we worried about the economy's overheating to a turn, and those turns are the most nervous parts of driving. And I think that's why, there's all these questions. Will the Fed raise? Will they not? Well, and I think that's a turn. Your brain, I'm sure, Ben, as you're driving on a track, your brain's firing more than normal on a turn, and that's like the market today. There's a lot of uncertainty, but to us, again, I think this is normal and natural, and pressing the gas a little bit right now for the Fed probably does make sense. So, onward and upward onto our next topic, and we talked about this probably a fair amount this year, and maybe this is the last time we covered in a video for 2024, but that election's still coming up. And I know last time Ben and I hit on this a little bit of, what impact will the election have on markets and so forth. Just not to dwell on this too much, but this is a similar version of a chart we put up on the last call that let's not mix politics and investments. And I think, just a quick synopsis of this chart is the blue line shows you if you just stayed invested through all presidencies going back to 1953, your $1,000 turned into close to $1.6 million. If you tried to pick which party you wanted to be in the market during when that person is in the White House, whether Democrat or Republican, you didn't do anywhere near as well. So let's just not mix them. And I think it's important on two fronts of why this matters, right? Think about the election coming up. One, does investing get impacted by politics? No. The most important thing is who we're investing in. We're not investing in the White House. We're investing in NVIDIA. NVIDIA is basically one of the most profitable companies in the world, and they have plans of how to revolutionize AI for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Do you think they really care who wins this next election? Right? Ben and I talk about this. I don't think they're in their meeting room saying, well, if blank wins, we're going to stop developing AI chips that revolutionize the world. But if the other one wins, we'll keep developing them. They have a plan and a path ahead that no matter who wins this election, they're moving ahead and trying to change the world. So we want to maintain focus that we're not investing in the White House. We're investing in NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Netflix, so forth, these companies that are revolutionizing the world. So keep that in mind, and I'll turn Ben has another sort of anecdotal story to go along with that.
Yeah, so Damien, if you want to go to the next chart,
Yep.
another thing outside of making sure we are focusing on investing in companies, not the White House, we also want to think about the consumer as well. The consumer does one thing very well, and that is, well, two things. They work very hard and they spend a lot of money. We're closing in on Christmas season, and what happens then? People spend a lot of money. So, and with Christmas coming up, regardless of who gets in the White House, people are still going to buy gifts. So I actually did a little search on ChatGPT. I asked what the top 5 gifts were for 2024. I didn't recognize most of them, so I think I might be getting old. But if I put myself in the shoes, like if I was a kid right now, I'd probably ask for like the new Xbox or I guess it's the PS5 now. I don't think my parents for like it, depending on who would get in the White House, say that, you know, sorry, Ben, our favorite candidate didn't get in the White House. We're not going to get you the new PS5. So just to give some more perspective, separate the economy from from politics. People will spend money regardless. And looking at this chart, the little blue line, that's month mo over month change. So any of those big jumps, that's our nice November, December Christmas spending. And the big red one, that's just cumulative change over the years from 1960. That's 13 presidencies. And what do you see? It just goes up to the right.
And I think that sort of leads into our what we've talked about is I think as we think through and wrap up our video for today, that as you get into election times, we get constantly asked, should the White House get credit? Should Congress get credit? And if anything, I get frustrated that we're missing out on who should get credit for this, right? We're not investing in the White House. Like Ben said, whether we like it or not, as Americans, we are excellent at working hard and spending money. There's no one in the world who does either like we do. And I think if there's two parties that deserve credit for the market, is one, American corporations. They are unbelievably innovative. They change the world. Over and over again, American corporations, not only do they innovate, but they're unbelievably profitable and unbelievably maneuverable. They make it through COVID in the blink of an eye and just continue down the progress of being profitable. That's one thing we underestimate. And remember, that's who we're buying. We're not buying the White House. Second thing is us, right? We don't give ourselves credit. I'll pat Ben and myself on the back that we're pretty hardworking people, and Americans work very hard. And as we work, we get rewarded for that. And as we get rewarded, we take those monies and we like to spend it. So why the market does well is not because of who's on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's not because of who's in Congress. It's because of us as a collective that we work so hard, we spend our money, and corporations are so good at being profitable. So let's give them credit. And, like Ben said, Liam and Keenan are getting the same presents no matter who wins in the White House, right? And corporations are staying on the same path no matter who wins. So let's focus on that. Our job is to let's make sure we keep investing in profitable companies, and let's not get distracted in this fun couple weeks ahead before we head up to the election. On that note, Ben, you want to close us out, but I think video two might be over.
Yeah, that wraps up Rapid Fire 2. So hopefully you enjoyed. Again, any feedback is always appreciated. And stay safe. Enjoy the nice fall weather. I know it's my favorite time of year. And I also, life update, I did get married last weekend. So the rain held out. So the weather's been good up here. But to everyone around the world, stay safe and we'll see you next month.
And congratulations to Ben and Abby, and a happy marriage ahead.